I was dripping sweat, heart pounding like a war drum inside the belly of that cold alien fortress. The screams of my kin echoed through the steel corridors. J1, a nail in my soul. Hold on, I'm coming, I shouted back, voice hoarse, barely audible over the metallic clangs and distant explosions. My hands trembled as I gripped the energy rifle tighter, my knuckles white, every muscle screaming for release, but refusing to give in. The air was thick with the acrid stench of burning circuitry and something darker, fear, desperation, and something else I couldn't place. Then, without warning, the ground beneath me shuddered violently. The fortress groaned as if waking from a long nightmare. From the shadows, a low, guttural growl rumbled, sending chills down my spine. Something monstrous stirred. An ancient predator, bound and forgotten by alien tech, shaking the chains of centuries-old captivity. My mission, already a perilous gamble, just turned into a nightmare, and maybe, just maybe, a chance for salvation. My name is Soren. I'm a rebel, leader forged in the fires of loss and rebellion. Years ago, they took my family, my home, and turned my world into ashes. The alien conquerors, cold and unyielding, crushed every spark of resistance, until I was left with nothing but a burning hunger for freedom. Leading this ragtag band of survivors, I've become both their shield and their sword, navigating through despair and hope in equal measure. But tonight the stakes are higher than ever. I stumbled forward, every step echoing. In the hollow corridor, Jax, Mira, status, I barked into my comlink. Silence. My blood ran colder. The last transmission had been a frantic scream before. The line went dead. Panic clawed at my throat, but I swallowed it down. No time for grief. Not now. Sweat dripped from my brow as I rounded the corner, the dim emergency lights flickering erratically. The walls were lined with alien glyphs that pulsed faintly, as if the fortress itself was alive, watching. I slowed, crouching beside a fallen comrade. Anya, her breathing shallow, eyes glazed but still flickering with defiance. Anya, stay with me, I urged, tearing a strip from my sleeve to staunch the bleeding on her arm. She coughed weakly. Soren! The core, it's failing. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it hit me like a hammer to the chest. The core. If it went down, the entire base would self-destruct. We all would. Tell me what I need to do. The words came out rough, desperate. Her eyes locked onto mine. Find the control nexus. Override the failsafe. You're the only one who can. She gave a faint nod, then slipped into unconsciousness. Oh! I pressed a hand to her forehead, then forced myself up. No time to mourn. My boots clanged against the metal floor as I sprinted deeper into the labyrinthine fortress. The screams had grown louder, more frantic, and I realized they weren't just from my people. Something else was stirring, something ancient. The tremors had brought it to life. I could feel its presence now, a dark weight pressing against my senses, making my skin crawl. Come on, Soren, I muttered, under my breath, pushing past exhaustion. You faced worse. Ahead, a massive doorway barred my path. It was covered in alien runes. Dash shimmered with a sickly green light. I reached out, fingers trembling, and placed my palm on the surface. The door hissed and slid open, revealing a vast chamber, bathed in eerie luminescence. In the center, a massive containment unit pulsed with energy, and inside, coiled like a shadow, was the creature. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Its form was fluid, shifting, terrifying blend of sinew and alien technology, scales glinting like obsidian, eyes burning with an intelligence that chilled me to the bone. It growled softly, a sound that resonated deep within me, stirring something primal. Why now? I whispered, heart hammering. Why wake you? The creature's eyes locked onto mine, and in that moment I felt a strange kinship, as if it understood the weight I carried. The fortress trembled again. Alarms blaring as systems began to fail around us. Time was running out. Suddenly, the containment field flickered, sparks flying. The creature lashed out, breaking free with a roar that shook the chamber. I dove aside just in time, feeling the shockwave ripple through my body. My rifle discharged bolts of energy, slicing through the air, but it was no use. This was no ordinary enemy. Easy, I said, raising my hands slowly, trying to calm the beast. I'm not here to fight you. I need your help. For a heartbeat, the creature hesitated, tilting its head as if weighing my words. Then it stepped forward. No! Towering and terrible, a force of nature unleashed. I swallowed my fear, knowing that if I failed to control this alliance, we would all be lost. I reached into my pack and pulled out the device Mira had crafted, a neural interface designed to link my mind with alien technology. If I could synchronize with the creature, maybe we could override the fortress's self-destruct sequence together. It was a desperate gamble, but the only chance I had. With trembling hands, as sauce, I activated the device and placed the neural link against my temple. A surge of images and sensations flooded my mind, visions of wars long past, memories of the creature's imprisonment, the cold cruelty of the alien overlords who had chained it here, pain, rage, and a flicker of hope. Listen to me, I thought, projecting my will into the neural link. Help us stop this madness. Free us both. The creature responded, a wave of emotion washing over me, fury, sorrow, but also understanding. It was tired of being a weapon, of being a prisoner. Together we could tear this fortress down from the inside. Behind me the screams of my comrades grew louder. The time to act was now. I pulled back from the neural link, panting, sweat mixing with dirt and blood on my skin. All right, I said, voice rough but resolute. Let's bring this fortress down, and maybe, in the ruins, find a new beginning. As the creature let out a final roar, the walls began to shake violently. The nightmare was just beginning. So was our fight for salvation. I jerked the control stick sharply. No, not now, I growled, my voice rough and urgent as the warning lights around me flared red. You! The console blinked erratically, the alien symbols twisting and pulsing like they were alive. The fortress beneath me shook, again, thunderous and deep as if the very foundations. Now, we're about to crumble. My heart pounded in my chest, wild and unrelenting. Come on, Soren, focus, I muttered, biting back the rising panic. I was perched inside the cockpit of the ancient beast, the monstrous fusion of alien, biotech, and primordial fury I had reluctantly bonded with. It was a living weapon, a sleeping titan bound for centuries beneath this fortress, now awake and stirring under my control. But could I wield it without losing myself? My mind flashed back to the faces of my family scattered, lost among the stars by the alien regime's merciless hand. Each life stolen, each home destroyed, weighed on me like a black hole in my chest. I had fought to survive, yes, but more than that, I fought for vengeance and for hope. I was the last chance to bring my people home. Yet the creature beneath me pulsed with rage, an ancient, violent storm barely restrained. I could feel its fury coursing through the neural link, threatening to overwhelm my own will. Was I strong enough to command it, or would I be consumed and lost, just like so many before me? The calm crackled faintly. Ah! Soren, status, Nira's voice broke through the static. Fragile but steady, I clenched my jaw. Still inside. The beast is restless. The fortress is breaking down. I'm moving toward the control nexus. My voice was low, breath ragged. You're the only one who can stop the self-destruct, she reminded me quietly. We're counting on you. I swallowed hard. I won't fail. The first sonic commands. Ah! A flicker in the fog of my thoughts. A shiver down my spine. The fortress, the alien prison that held my people captive, was not just crumbling. It was awakening something far older, far deadlier. The ancient creature I now controlled was no mere weapon. It was a force of nature, bound by technology, but driven by eons of fury and grief. Its growls echoed through my mind, shaking loose memories I didn't want to face. I remembered Jax, my closest, friend and fiercest warrior, who had fallen trying to hold the line. His last transmission was a desperate scream before the silence swallowed him. Oh! Mira and the others were still out there, waiting for me to bring them home. I owed them that much. My hands tightened on the controls as the beast surged forward, metal grinding against stone in a symphony of destruction. The fortress corridors blurred past, twisted and alien, the walls lined with glowing glyphs that pulsed with unnatural light. Each step brought us closer to the control nexus and to whatever hell awaited. Suddenly, the beast faltered, its massive form shuddering violently. The neural link buzzed with interference to creatures, rage spilling over, threatening to sever our fragile bond. Calm, I whispered fiercely into the link. I'm still here. Focus. The creature's furious growl softened, replaced by a low hum that vibrated through my bones. It was listening. For a moment, a fragile truce held between us. Then, alarms blared throughout. The fortress, the failsafe was activating. The core was failing, just like Anya had warned me. If I didn't act fast, the self-destruct sequence would erase us all. Almost there, I muttered, guiding the beast through a narrow shaft. Lined with humming energy conduits, sparks flew as the ancient machine clawed its way forward, each movement a battle between man and monster. Ahead, I saw the control nexus, a towering console of alien design, covered in pulsating blue runes. I slammed the beast to a halt, sweat stinging my eyes. Okay, old friend, I said aloud, forcing a smile I didn't feel. Time to finish this. I leapt from the cockpit, muscles screaming from the strain, and sprinted toward the console. The fortress trembled, walls cracking as explosions rocked the structure. Behind me the beast let out deafening roar, shaking the very air. Mira's voice crackled urgently in my ear. Soren, hurry. The countdown started. I dropped to my knees, hands flying over the alien interface. The runes shifted under my touch, responding to my presence. The neural link hummed, syncing with the fortress systems. But then something unexpected. A shadow flickered in the corner of my vision. I whipped around, heart in my throat. A squad of alien guards burst into the chamber, weapons raised, their grotesque forms illuminated by the flickering lights. Damn it! I cursed under my breath. The beast growled, sensing the threat, and surged forward. I dueled behind a console as energy blasts tore through the air. The ground shook again, debris raining from the ceiling. Cover me, I shouted into the comlink. Mira's voice was steady but tense. I'm on it. The beast crashed through the alien soldiers, a whirlwind of sinew and steel, scattering them like leaves in a storm. I took the moment to focus, fingers flying over the controls, overriding failsafe. Almost done, I gasped. Suddenly, the beast's roar turned desperate, almost pained. The neural link flashed. Warnings. My mind was being pushed to the brink. The creature's fury threatened to burst free, to drown me in its rage. Fight it, Soren, Mira urged. Remember why you're here. I closed my eyes, drawing on every ounce of willpower, not just for me, but for my people, for those lost and waiting. The beast and I were intertwined. We were two sides of the same coin, fury and resolve, destruction and hope. With a final surge, the failsafe was overridden. The countdown ceased. The fortress's systems began to stabilize, the tremors slowing. I slumped against the console, breath heaving. The beast crouched beside me, its massive form shrinking back, the rage subsiding. Did we do it? I whispered, voice cracking. The creature's eyes softened, glowing faintly in the dim light. A silent acknowledgement. Oh! Suddenly the comlink crackled again. Soren, status, Mira's voice, filled with relief. I smiled, weakly, wiping sweat from my brow. The core stable, for now. But this fight, it's far from over. As the fortress settled into uneasy silence, I realized the truth weighing, heavier than ever, wielding. This ancient beast was a gamble with my very soul. Could I control this rage without letting it consume me? could I lead my people out of? Darkness, or would I become the monster I sought to command? For now, there was no time to answer those questions. My allies waited in the shadows, and the alien regime still, and breathed down our necks. The next move was mine, and I planned to make it count. Let's finish this, I said, voice steady despite the storm inside me. For my family, for all of us. I slammed my palm against the console, breath ragged, eyes locked on the flickering alien interface. The fortress's power grid was in chaos, a wild, erratic pulse, thrumming beneath the surface, like a heartbeat gone mad. Every fiber of my being screamed that something was wrong, something ancient stirring beneath layers of forgotten tech. The alien guards around me stiffened, their movements sharper, more deliberate. Their patrols tightened like a go! Noose closing in, and I could feel their eyes, cold, calculating, tracking me through the shadows. My name is Soren, and in this moment I was a man caught between desperation and destiny. The pulse beneath my boots wasn't just a malfunction, it was a warning, a deep, primal thrum that resonated in my bones, whispering of a predator bound beneath the fortress, something that had been trapped for centuries, forgotten by time, but never truly dead. The tension twisted inside me, a swirling storm of fear, excitement, and raw survival instinct. Every step forward was a gamble, a razor's edge between salvation and oblivion. But turning back, that wasn't an option, not when my people's lives were hanging by a thread. I whispered to myself, trying to steady the chaos in my mind. Stay sharp, Soren. You've come too far to falter now. The corridor ahead was bathed in a sickly green glow, alien runes pulsating like... Why? The heartbeat of the fortress itself. I moved cautiously, senses heightened, fingers twitching. Near my rifle's trigger, the walls seemed to breathe, alive with a sinister energy that set my nerves ablaze. Every shadow flickered with unseen movement. Every distant sound was a threat waiting to strike. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled beneath me, shaking the metal floor. The ancient predator was waking. My heartbeat quickened, and heart beat, chest tightening with a mixture of dread and something eerily like awe. What have I done? I muttered. Voice barely audible, the containment field in front of me shimmered violently, cracks of blue energy sparking along its surface. The beast coiled inside, Beov consoled inside, awe how with it. A nightmare of sinew and alien metal, its eyes glowing like twin stars of molten fury. It shifted, muscles rippling beneath a glossy obsidian skin that reflected the dim light. The creature's breath hissed through the containment unit, a sound like steam escaping a pressure valve, and then, with a violent crack, the field shattered. The beast erupted free with a deafening roar that echoed off the fortress walls, shaking loose dust and debris. I stumbled backward, heart pounding like a war drum as the shockwave slammed into me. The air was thick with ozone and raw power. Damn it, I cursed, dropping into a defensive stance. Easy, easy, I'm not your enemy. The creature's eyes locked onto mine, a burning intelligence burning through its primal rage. For a moment, time seemed to freeze, a fragile connection forming between us. It was as if the beast recognized something in me, a kindred spirit bound by pain and fury. Help me, I breathed, raising my hands slowly. Ah! Trying to project calm. We can stop this together. Chamber trembled again. Alarms blaring as systems began to fail across the fortress. Sparks rained from the ceiling, and the walls groaned with the strain of collapse. The beast stepped forward, massive claws scraping the metal floor, its growl a low rumble that vibrated through my chest. In that instant, I realized the mission had shifted. No longer just to rescue it was a desperate gamble with a force beyond my understanding. Listen, I said, pulling the neural interface from my pack. The device Mira had, crafted in a fevered rush. It was my last hope, a chance to link my mind with the creatures and wrest control from chaos. I need you, not as a prisoner, but as an ally. My hands trembled as I placed the interface against my temple. A surge of images crashed through my consciousness, visions of ancient wars, the creature's imprisonment, cold alien overlords who'd chained it in this tomb. Pain, rage, and a flicker of hope flooded my mind. The beast responded, not with words, but with emotion, a wave of fury. Sorrow and understanding washed over me. It was tired of being a weapon, a prisoner. Together we could tear this fortress apart, dismantle the alien regime's hold from within. Behind me, the screams of my comrades grew louder, more frantic. The countdown to destruction was ticking down, and the stakes had never been higher. I forced myself to focus, heart hammering his eye, synchronized with the creature. Sir! The neural link hummed, images and sensations blurring between us. I felt its power coursing through my veins, a wild storm, barely restrained. Stay with me, I urged silently, clinging to the fragile thread of control. We end this. Together! The beast let out a final, earth-shaking roar and surged forward, smashing through alien sentries who dared to block our path. I sprinted after it, adrenaline sharpening every sense. The corridors twisted and folded like a labyrinth, alien glyphs lighting our way with eerie luminescence. Almost there, I muttered, fingers flying over the alien control panels. The fortress was collapsing around us, walls cracking, metal groaning under strain. The beast moved with terrifying grace, a living weapon unleashed after centuries of slumber. Suddenly, the neural link flared, warnings blaring in my mind. The creature's rage threatened to consume me, to sever our bond and send us both spiraling into madness. Fight it, Soren, Mira's voice crackled in my ear, steady but urgent. Remember why you're here. I bit down my fear, drawing on every ounce of willpower. This wasn't just a battle for survival, it was a fight for the soul of my people, for the fragile hope of freedom. With a final, desperate surge, I completed the override. The fortress's self-destruct sequence halted, systems stabilizing as the tremors began to ease. I collapsed against the console, sweat and dirt mixing on my skin. The beast crouched beside me, its eyes glowing softly. Silent acknowledgement of our fragile truce. Did we do it? I whispered, voice cracking with exhaustion. The creature's gaze softened. What? A flicker of trust and something almost like gratitude shining in its depths. Then the comlink crackled again. Saren, status? Nira's voice filled with relief. I smiled, weakly, wiping sweat from my brow. The core is stable for now, but this fight is far from over. As the fortress settled into uneasy silence, I knew, one thing for certain. Waking the ancient predator had changed everything. The line between ally and enemy blurred, and the gamble I'd taken with that primal force was just beginning to pay off or to unravel. The darkness ahead was vast and uncertain, but I was ready. For my family, for my people, for the chance to reclaim what was lost. Let's finish this, I said, under my breath, eyes burning with renewed fire. No turning back now. With a roar that shattered the silence and ripped to every fiber of my certainty, the beast awakened. Fully its primal rage, a tempest unleashed, echoing off the cold steel walls of the fortress like thunder in a canyon. My ears rang from the sheer force of it, and my heart pounded violently, a drumbeat of fear and exhilaration. But beneath that terrifying fury, something deep inside me, yearned a connection, raw and ancient, a bond, forged not just by the neural interface, but by something far older, something almost sacred. I wasn't just commanding this creature. Somehow we were linked, two souls entwined in a dance of survival and vengeance. Hold on, old friend, I whispered fiercely, gripping the control stick tighter as the beast surged forward, muscles rippling beneath obsidian scales like molten steel. We're in this together. The alien ranks swarmed around us like locusts, their grotesque forms illuminated by the flickering emergency lights, weapons blazing with deadly intent. I felt the beast's growl resonate through my bones, a low, guttural warning that sent a shiver down my spine, and then we struck, side by side, man and monster, tearing through enemy lines, with a ferocity neither of us fully understood, but both desperately needed. Each strike was a battle not just against the alien soldiers, but against the beast's escalating fury. The rage inside it threatened to consume us both, a wildfire that could destroy everything in its path, myself included. I could feel it clawing at the edges of my mind, a relentless storm pressing to break free. My breath came in ragged gasps as I fought to maintain control, voice steady, but my thoughts a whirlwind. Calm, I muttered through gritted teeth. I'm still here. Stay with me. The beast's growl softened, just enough to be a warning, rather than a scream. It was listening, just barely. Around us the fortress trembled violently, alarms blaring in a cacophony of chaos that threatened to drown out all other sound. The walls groaned and cracked, debris falling like lethal rain. The core was failing. That ominous ticking countdown pushing relentlessly forward, and with it the lives of my kin dangled precariously on the edge of oblivion. Jax, Mira, where the hell are you? I shouted into my comlink, voice strained. Static answered, broken and fragmented, but no response came. I swallowed the rising panic, forcing myself to focus on the immediate threat, the alien regime's elite fanat. Eichel warriors bred and trained for this moment were hunting us relentlessly. Their movements were precise, coordinated, and deadly. Each time the beast tore through a group, another emerged from the shadows. Keep moving, Soren, Mira's voice crackled in my ear. Here! Steady, despite the tension. The control nexus is just ahead, but they're closing in fast. I know, I growled, sweat stinging my eyes as I pushed the creature faster, dodging blasts that scorched the air beside us. We don't have much time. In the midst of the chaos, a sudden jolt threw me off. Balance! The beast roared in. Frustration, the neural link, flashing red warnings, sashing. The fury was building, threatening to overwhelm my mind. I clenched my jaw, squeezing my eyes shut for a fraction of a second, willing the storm inside to settle. You're not in control, I whispered fiercely, almost pleading. I'm the one who leads this fight, not the rage. The beast's eyes, glowing fiercely in the dim light, flickered with a moment of clarity. The connection held for now. Suddenly, a squad of alien elites burst from a side corridor, their weapons blazing with deadly precision. The beast reacted instantly, Evie lashing out with claws that carved through their armor like paper. I ducked behind a shattered console, hard hammering as you are. Energy blasts scorched the floor around me. Cover me, I shouted, fingers flying over the alien. Control panel trying to override the failsafe before. The countdown reached 0. Mira's voice was steady but urgent. Almost there, Soren. You can do this. I could feel the beast's rage surging. Again, the neural link, pulsing violently as if it wanted to break free. The raw power threatened to engulf me, to drown my will in a sea of fury. Fight it, Mira urged. Remember who you are. I closed my eyes, drawing. Oh! On every ounce of strength, every memory of loss and hope that had brought me this far. The faces of my family, my friends, the lives stolen by this merciless regime, they burned bright in my mind, a beacon against the darkness. With a final surge, I pushed through the tempest inside, overriding the failsafe and halting the countdown. What? The fortress shuddered, the alarms cutting out one by. A system stabilized. I collapsed against the console, gasping, the beast crouching beside me as its rage finally ebbed to a low, rumbling purr. Did we do it? I whispered, sweat and blood mixing on my skin. The creature's eyes softened. Glowing faintly, a silent acknowledgement of our fragile victory. Then the comlink crackled again. Soren, status! Mira's voice filled with relief. The core stable? For now, I said, voice hoarse but resolute. But this fight, it's far from over. As the fortress settled into uneasy silence, I felt The weight of what we'd done pressed down on me. This ancient beast, bound by rage and sorrow, was no longer just a weapon. It was part of me now, the monster I'd feared. Nah! Becoming wasn't just a threat. Out there it was a shadow lurking inside. Could I be both the leader my people needed and the master of this primal force, or would the beast's fury consume us both, leaving nothing but ruin? The walls groaned again. The fortress, still trembling from its wounds, every second brought new dangers, new choices. But as I looked into those glowing eyes, I knew one thing with unshakable clarity. We were bound by fate and fury, and together we would either rise or fall. "Let's finish this," I said, voice steady despite the storm inside. For my family, for my people, for all of us. And with that, the nightmare became our battleground, and the fight for salvation truly began. I gritted my teeth, muscles trembling from exertion as I gripped the neural interface's controls, the beast's furious heartbeat pounding in sync with mine. "This is it," I muttered, voice thick with a mixture of dread and determination. No turning back now. Zah! The fortress groaned violently, steel tearing and sparks flying as the alien stronghold began to collapse around us, its very foundations succumbing to the fury we had unleashed. I could feel the creature's rage swelling inside me, a wild tempest clawing its way through the fragile barrier of my mind. Its primal roar echoed in my ears, a thunderous sound that seemed to shake the very air, vibrating through the bones of the fortress and into my core. Yet beneath that overwhelming storm, a strange calm settled, a fierce, unbreakable resolve forged through years of loss and defiance. "Hold on, old friend," I whispered fiercely, fingers tightening on the control stick, sweat stinging my eyes. "We do this together." The corridors around us, were a maelstrom of chaos. Alien troops swarmed like insects, their grotesque armor glinting under the flickering emergency lights, weapons blazing in frantic bursts. The beast's massive form surged forward, claws rending metal and flesh alike. Each strike was devastating, a savage dance of destruction, but I felt the beast's fury threatening to consume us both. There was a wildfire racing through my veins, and I was the only thing holding it, back from spiraling into madness. "Calm," I muttered through gritted teeth, voice barely audible over the cacophony. "I'm still here. Stay with me." The creature's growls softened from a scream to a low rumble, a fragile truce hanging between us. Somehow, amidst the storm, it was listening. I glanced down at my bleeding hands, dirt and blood smeared across my skin, and felt the weight of years, the families torn apart, the homes reduced to ash, the friends lost in battles that never seemed to end. This was more than a fight for survival. It was a war for redemption. "Jax, Mira, status," I barked into the comlink, voice rough and urgent. Static answered, fragmented and broken. No reply came. My heart clenched, but there was no time to mourn. They were counting on me. "We're almost there, Myris." Voice crackled faintly, a thread of hope in the darkness. "You're the only one who can stop this." I swallowed hard, nodding. Even though she couldn't see me. "I won't let you down." The beast surged ahead, smashing through a barricade of alien elites who charged with lethal precision. I ducked behind the shattered console as energy blasts scorched the floor near me. "Cover me," I shouted, urgency sharpening my fingers. As I danced over the alien control panel, deciphering symbols that pulsed with eerie energy. "Almost there," Mira urged, steady despite the tension. The countdown to the fortress's self-destruction was relentless, each second drawn out like a blade against my sanity. I fought to maintain control over the beast's raging mind. The neural link pulsed violently, warnings flashing across my vision. The ancient fury within threatened to break free, to drown me in its unyielding tempest. I clenched my jaw, closing my eyes for a fleeting moment, summoning every shred of willpower. You're not in control. And next tastes Picari, I whispered fiercely, voice trembling as much as my hands. I am. I lead this fight, not the rage. For a heartbeat, the beast's glowing eyes softened and flickering with a clarity that felt almost human. The connection held for now. A squad of alien soldiers burst from a side corridor, weapons raised and firing with deadly intent. The beast roared, claws slashing through their ranks like a living storm, scattering them like leaves in a gale. I took the opening, fingers flying over the console, overriding the fail-safe sequence. Done, I gasped, sweat pouring down my face as I slammed the final command. The fortress trembled. Vehemently as the countdown halted. Alarms began to cease, systems stabilizing slowly. I collapsed against the console, muscles trembling, breath ragged. Beside me, the beast crouched low, its furious growls fading into a low, rumbling purr. Its eyes, once blazing with uncontrollable rage, glowed softly, a silent acknowledgment of our fragile victory. Did we do it? I whispered, voice cracked with exhaustion and disbelief. The creature's gaze met mine, and in that moment I felt something shift, not just between us, but inside me. The line between man and monster blurred, a fusion of fury and hope that neither of us could deny. The comlink crackled again. Soren, status, Mira's voice, trembling with relief. Trembling with relief. The core is stable, for now, I answered, voice hoarse but resolute. But this fight, it's far from over. As the fortress settled, into an uneasy silence. Day! The weight of what we'd done pressed down on me like a mountain. The alien regime's grip was broken, their fortress in ruins, and my people were free, but at what cost? The ancient beast was no longer a prisoner. It was part of me now, the wild heart beating in tandem with my own. I struggled to reconcile the man I used to be with the creature I had become. Could I control this fury without losing myself? Or would the beast's rage consume everything I fought for? From the shattered corridors, the faint sounds of my kin began to emerge, weak cries of freedom, the first flickers of hope lighting their eyes. I saw the faces of those I had sworn to protect, their expressions a mixture of relief and disbelief. Thank you, I whispered, voice trembling with emotion. We made it, but deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. The alien regime was shattered, but its remnants would fight back fiercely. The war for our survival was far from over, and I, no longer just Soren. The rebel leader was now the wild heart of a new rebellion, a force born from sacrifice and fury. I rose slowly, muscles aching, but spirit unbroken. Dawn broke over the ravaged battlefield, casting pale light on the ruins. The air was thick with smoke and the scent of burning metal, but beneath it all, something new was stirring, a spark of hope, fragile and fierce. I looked down at my hands, scarred and trembling, and up at the horizon. We fight on, I said, voice low and steady, for our families, for our future, for freedom. The beast growled softly beside me, a reminder of the power and the price I now carried within. Survival demanded sacrifice, and sometimes, to defeat monsters, we must embrace the beast inside. This was not the end. It was the beginning of a new war, and I was its wild heart.